What's up, guys? This is Eric with Underdogs of Addiction. Today's video is going to be something a little off topic, and it's going to be talking about an encounter I had with a demonic presence in my house. Um, I know this is going to raise some flags for people, but I'm just being real. My entire life, I've been a off and on again follower of Jesus and the Word. There's been times where I've felt the divine presence in my life, and then there's times I've turned away from God. Throughout my childhood, there were some of you guys that know my story. There was a lot of trauma. There was a lot of pain. So sometimes there was a lot of anger towards God and not understanding why I had to experience some of the things I did. But there was also times where there was a lot of salvation and a lot of beauty that I seen. And this experience, being encountered by this demonic presence, is something that I just really wanted to share. Because in the last 3 years of my life, Jesus has shown himself to me. And this is probably the second time in my life that I had been visited by this presence. But the first time it visited me, I was unclear of its entity because it didn't speak to me. It was in a room with me, and it was just kind of there and ran away from me. And yeah, so kind of how all this led up is um, I remember when I was even like a little kid, my brother was he was going through his own mental breakdown, which caused him to. It was a mixture of drama in the house, and then him finding God and reading the Bible, and maybe not understanding it, and he thought that he thought that the end of the world was coming. This was like in 2000 when I was only 9 years old, and you know, he was teaching me about the prophecies and the second coming of Christ and the Antichrist. And so like as a kid, I would get like super scared. And there was even like a time like I wrote my own Bible and I tried to write my own Bible. I don't know what I was doing. But where I'm getting at and bringing you guys back to my childhood is when I was a kid, I experienced a lot of trauma from when I was in the womb until I was older. There's stories of like my dad kicking the womb when I was pregnant. I don't even know. I don't want to get too deep into that, but these are just things that were told to me. There was a lot of trauma on both sides of my family, and there was a spiritual war going on in my home. 100%. There was a lot of demonic and evil forces in my house as a child. When I was 7 years old, my aunt, rest in peace, she passed away from a fentanyl overdose. She would take me over to a witch's house. This lady was practicing witchcraft, and I mean, I'm a kid. I don't know nothing about what's going on, but my aunt used to have me watch all these horror movies and these scary movies, and I loved her, so I just did whatever, she asked me to do. But unfortunately, she liked to dabble in the dark side quite a bit. She was never really one that was religious, like as far as Jesus and church. She was more interested in witchcraft and the occult and all those things, like that movie, The Craft. Like we used to watch that movie all the time. And I remember going over to this witch's house, and as a kid, you're very intuitive. I just felt this dark, demonic energy in this woman's home. And like when I walked in, she just stared at me like it was fucking creepy. It was almost like, oh, here's a fresh soul, innocent. He doesn't know anything. And I'm not even gonna lie to you guys. Like this lady had a fucking crystal fucking ball. I remember this to this day. I don't know if it's real or what it was, but it had all these lights coming out of it and shit. And she was just kind of like worshiping it. And there's all these weird lights and candles in the house. And we went over there to get a tarot card reading. And I don't remember what the tarot cards and shit read. But I just remember leaving that house, and that was kind of my first encounter as a kid, knowing that like starting to understand about these evil forces. And I would like watch that movie The Prophecy as a child with Stephen King. I mean, not Stephen King, but Stephen Walker, right? Or not Stephen Christopher Walken, my bad. And I just remember feeling like, man, like this stuff is real. And when I was a kid, I would sleepwalk, and I would go into these states, and I would remember it where I would wake up and it would be like a sleepwalk, but I was semi-conscious, and I always felt that there was like something attacking me. There was some demon, there was some type of presence. I swear, and it happened all the time. And my mom would tell me that she would see me, I would come to the foot of her bed and like talk to her and say crazy things, and like I didn't remember. And like for multiple periods in my life, in my maybe between 5 and 8 years old, I would wake up like curled up in the bathroom, and it would be like I would be in this dream. And I remember it was semi-conscious sleepwalking, and I would be in this haze, but I didn't have the power to do anything, and I just felt like this overwhelming emotion. And I would always end up like in my bathroom somewhere curled up and wake up and be like, what the hell was going on? But it was like this recurring, these demons were coming from my spirit. That's what it felt like. It felt like there was like a war for my life. And my life has been a wild life. I have music videos that have over 50 million views on YouTube as far as my music career, where I speak on positive things and trying to uplift people. There was a there was something God put on my life at a young age, and I knew that I was meant to do something more in this life. And through the music for the first 15 years of my life, that's what it was. And it reached a peak in like 2018 where I had two music videos that both had over 15 million views, and many other songs over millions of views, and being able to reach people. But I quickly realized like that wasn't enough. And during that time, I kind of distanced myself from God, and I was in and out of drugs and addiction. And long story short, a lot of you guys already know that story. I had a really strong encounter with God one night when I was up for 2 days on cocaine and alcohol, at my rock bottom. And I felt Jesus's presence in my apartment, and I fell down to my knees. And at the time, I didn't think it was Jesus. I just knew it was something that loved me. And I just prayed for the deliverance. And the Spirit said to me that this was going to be over soon. And long story short, you guys can listen to that podcast of that story. But I ended up going to treatment for 11 months, and that was over 2 years ago. And I've had a lot of sobriety and recovery since then. And as I've moved into my new life, and over the last year, I've reconnected with God, especially going through Alcoholics Anonymous, and finding a higher power. And I I have a good friend who got me back into church, and there's an amazing church where I'm from called Capital Christian Center in Olympia, Washington. And the pastor there is great, and I just really feel their messages. It's more about following the word of Jesus and not religion. The slogan we're in Olympia, so Kurt Cobain, Nirvana, right? It says, "Come as you are." And I've just been really feeling the Lord's presence and Jesus in my life like never before, because I have been feeling I've been feeling that loneliness, and I knew it was because I wasn't talking to God. I wasn't forming that relationship, and I've tried to fill that hole with women, with drugs, with codependent relationships, with success, and none of those things ever did it. And I had reached some very high levels of success in the music industry as an independent artist, and yeah. And so where I'm getting at is, about a month ago, I had went to church, and I had been doing the sober thing and having a good job and all these things. And the pastor talked about something in a service. He said, he goes, people in the world right now are so lonely and so depressed because they feel like they don't belong to anything. And the times when I've tried to be an atheist or be a scientist and not believe in this afterlife and God and all these things, I find myself feeling alone and empty, and asking myself, why am I staying sober? Like, why am I doing all this good stuff if Jesus and God and the afterlife is not real, and none of this means anything? And I've always had a strong mind, but I've always had a strong intuition, and there's always been a push and pull with me towards, my mind and my thinking mind and education and God's spirit and my intuition. And there was always been a war. But going through the things that I went through got me a lot closer to following the Lord. But this one experience that I want to explain to you guys that happened to me about a month ago changed the way I believe, because I was always, a guy that was halfway in, three-fourths in, but never all the way in. Maybe a couple times in my life, but it never lasted. I would go watch Richard Dawkins videos and try to debunk Christianity. But I've seen the Lord do work on my twin sister's life, my brother's life, my aunt's life, my own life. And it's got my best friend Steve as well. And I just couldn't deny it. And I asked, at one service, I decided to ask Jesus back into my heart again, which I had not done in a long time. It had been maybe 6 years since I asked the Lord in my heart again. And then maybe before that, there was only a few more times where I truly asked the Lord into my heart. And when I did, I felt the fullness, but there was many times where I turned away again. And I kept, so the night before, I think it was the night or a few nights before that I had this demonic presence, this experience I want to explain to you guys that happened to me. I prayed to God, and I was like in my house, and I was like, Lord, like, I'm sober, I'm doing all these positive things, I got a good job, I'm being of service, I'm helping my community, working with young addicts and kids with mental illness. And I'm still not quite fulfilled. I still feel empty. I'm still yearning to like go have that codependent relationship and pour myself into someone else because I still don't know how to love myself. Not realizing that Jesus, from the time I was born, loved me more than any drug, more than any success, more than any woman, more than anything could, more than my parents could, And I had that realization. And I mean, I didn't have that realization. I didn't want to accept his love. I did not want to accept it. And so I went on this path of being angry, watching all these atheist videos and trying to convince myself that God's not real. And that just led me to feel more depressed. And I sat in my apartment and I said, the typical cliche thing, God, if you're real, show me a sign. God, if you're real, show me a sign, right? Lord, give me a sign. Rest in peace to DMX. And nothing. That night, the night after that, nothing. And I was like, dude, see, like, if God was real, he would have shown me something. Maybe my picture on my TV would flash or something. But nothing. And I was like, forget it. All right, then I'm just not going to believe anymore. And those couple days where I decided to just not have any faith anymore. I mean, God, that was just like, I've always believed in a higher power and stuff. And so like that kept me going, even though I wasn't fully convinced on Jesus Christ and Christianity. But for a few days, I was like, I'm just not going to believe anything. And I realized quickly I couldn't live like that. But what happened is I go to sleep. I go to sleep that night, just a normal night, watching some movies. Took some melatonin, and I live alone, and for the first time in years, and so getting used to just being by myself. And when you're by yourself, you talk to yourself. I mean, you're in your head a lot, and you're kind of just there with yourself. It's a different vibe. And I I went to bed, and I woke up probably about 3 a.m. and I hear something enter my room. And I'm always one of those guys that's like paranoid that people are going to break in. So like I'm, always alert just to see, you just never know these days. People break in houses all the time. And I hear this voice, and it's unlike anything I've ever heard in my life. Ever. I've never heard this type of voice in my life. And you watch those Ed Lorraine and like the Conjuring or whatever it's called, Conjuring series, and you think that like these people were like making it up. And the voice of a demonic voice, you hear it through exorcisms and things of that nature, and everyone knows what I'm talking about. And we think that that's just made up. We think that that is not real, but it is. It is real. And it was the first time I heard it while being conscious. Um, and it sounded just like it did in, like, those recordings of when people are recording a live exorcism. Not like just in the movies where they try to fake it, but like how a real one sounds, where you listen to it and it fucking makes the hairs on your neck stand up. And it was almost like the frequency this demon was speaking in. Um, I didn't quite. Uh, I couldn't quite pick it up. It was like this foreign tongue, and it was saying all these things, and it was speaking really fast, and this voice was like very raspy and very confusing. And the energy, the weird thing, you guys, is like the energy of it, as scary as it seemed, it was so weak. It was so weak, and it was like it was talking shit. I mean, forgive me, but like, it was talking crap about God, and it was saying, F Jesus, F God, it's not real. You're gonna die. Jesus is not blah blah blah, and just screaming and then laughing, and then also laughing at me, because when I woke up, my body was in a complete state of paralysis. I was awake. I swear to God, I was awake. I was conscious, but I couldn't move my body. I could not move my body, and it felt like there was a demon, and their hand was covered my mouth, and I was trying to scream, and I remember exactly what I said, and I it didn't even like I didn't even have to think about it. It was like Jesus was speaking through me. I don't even remember saying these things, and all it said is, Jesus is coming. Jesus is coming. And I kept repeating it. I kept repeating it. I kept repeating it. And then all of a sudden, the demon just disappears. As I kept saying, Jesus is coming, it kept screaming at me, saying, Jesus, fuck. Excuse my language, but it was saying blasphemy to God. And I saw how weak it was. And I saw how it had no power over me. And I think about my life, and I think about all the domestic violence I've seen as a child, the lack of love from my father, all the different things I struggled and battled with, poverty as a kid, the struggles with addiction, all the things that the underworld, the devil, Satan, the demons, that they love. They love the trauma. They love the addiction. They love the lack of self-worth. They love you not being able to love yourself. They want to keep you there. They want you to suffer. They want you to be in pain. And they want you to do things and act in ways that will lead you eventually to just being with them, whether it's in this life, because there is hell on earth, or in the next life. And as I was saying, as I kept screaming and saying, Jesus is real, Jesus is coming, I kept saying it. The fucking demon left. It was gone in 60 seconds, like Nicolas Cage. And all of a sudden, my body, it was like Jesus was there. He didn't say anything. I felt the energy. He said, "You're okay. You're okay. I'm with you. You're okay." And I've never experienced anything like that in my life. And this was just days after me claiming, that Jesus, I don't believe in it. And me begging for God to show me a sign that, like, there's something else out here. And that's what it came. It came in the form of that. And just even a week prior to that, I had asked Jesus back into my life. And I knew that I know that the devil, he wants to take from me, because of what I've done in my music, the messages I can spread, in these videos, is spread God's name and Jesus' name, and the power of the gospel and the mission. And like I said, I still have so much to learn about everything. But once I realized, the power, everything started making sense. And, and ever since that day, my whole life, I've always just like, I want to know that God's real. I want to know that God's real. And I've felt it in many different circumstances, but this is the first time in my life that, like, because I've never had like serious encounters. Even though when I was younger and I was sleepwalking and stuff, I never felt, I've never had a demon talking to me. I had one other time where like I felt a presence in my room, but I didn't know if it was, I don't think it was a demon. I think it was actually an angel. But this was the only time in my life where I ever experienced a demon right here, right now, talking to me. And the demon was by themselves. They were there, and it was at the foot of my bed. Like, why? Why was it at the foot of my bed? I don't know, but it was at the foot of my bed, and then it was suppressing my mouth and trying to stop me from talking. It was trying to stop me from talking, and I kept screaming out, "Jesus is coming!" And I can't deny it. I can't deny it anymore. I see it. I see it. I believe it. Jesus is real. God is real. Now, I'm not going to get all religious and I don't know everything, but I do know that they're real and that they love me. They love you. I do believe that, the devil has my aunt told me, the devil is an instrument of God as well. And I'm still trying to understand that, but the devil has his certain powers on earth, and I still don't understand everything, but no matter what, God is still the most powerful. And a lot of people ask, why do evil things happen? Why do bad things happen to people? And I believe is because Satan, the devil, there's powers he has on earth. There's powers that were given to him on earth, and he's going to use those powers as long as he can until Jesus and God come down and take everything. And so when we see these acts of evil and all these things, there's only one person behind it, and it's Satan. It's the devil. He has power too. God is more powerful. Jesus is more powerful, but evil is powerful as well. And that's just what I've came to see and what I've came to believe in this world. I've seen a lot of evil things happen to me. We've seen a lot of things evil happen in this world. Jesus and God are not behind those things, I don't believe. But what do they say? They say Jesus and God gave human beings free will to choose which side they want to go on. I don't really understand I don't know if the human mind is capable of grasping the bigger picture of all this. I've been watching a lot of near-death experience videos, and talking to just other people who have had encounters with God in their life, and there's just no denying it for me anymore. And I'm just glad to finally be in a place where I just can't deny it anymore. And so that's my story. I hope you guys got some out of this video. Have a good day.